Somehow, after that whole ordeal, we awake, confused and disoriented. Ardbert is in our room, and we ask him what happened. Emmett vanished right after we collapsed. Reen did everything she could to stay the light within our body. It's thanks to her we are who we are right now, though she has only delayed our fate. He motions towards the window and tells us we will not like what we see, but we need to see it. We open the window, which reveals that the light in the sky has returned to Norvrand. The only hope the people clinged onto is gone, and it's because of us, because of the power we absorbed from the Wardens. Nobody but our friends know what happened. They told the people that they did not know why the light returned. Since then, they have been trying to relieve the people's fears while searching for a way to save us. So what Emmett said was true. We have all but become a Sin Eater. It is just a matter of time before we lose ourselves and turn on the innocents, bringing an end to the first. Ardbert tells us to go get some fresh air. It's better than sitting inside alone with our thoughts. We walk around the Crystarium and speak to the people. Most of them saw our cold and lifeless state at the end of the battle being brought down the mountain. Jessamil was seen wringing her hands when thinking about our condition. You never want to see a healer doing that. Even though the light has returned, they are still fighting. In times like these, the Crystarium folk stand tall and do what needs to be done. The thing that is eating us alive is the secrecy. Everyone still thinks that there is a chance, but we know deep down that there is nothing they can do. Cathlis recommends that we rest atop the watchtower. It is where the Exarch used to go to feel the wind upon his face. We gaze at the sky, and Ardbert joins us. He can relate to how we feel looking at the sky right now, knowing what the night meant to everyone, and that we were responsible for its disappearance. We still can't believe that it's coming from us. Neither can he, to be honest. This problem doesn't have an obvious way out, but that doesn't mean that it's over. However hopeless it seems, we haven't lost just yet. There was a time before when he was looking at the sky like this as well, being strangely calm after they realized they were responsible for the flood, and they resolved to take their own lives and journey to the source. One last sacrifice, one last fight, one last failure. Decades after, he had wondered if they were better off letting the rejoining happen, but seeing that giant Talos come to life cured him of all of his doubts. As a hero, we tend to hold on to all of the burdens by ourselves, so they never had the opportunity to see everyone coming together like that. To think the people of Norvrand's hope still burned this bright, that they were willing to lift themselves up one by one until they reached the heavens. No, they made the right decision, and he can finally feel proud of the part they played in this world's survival. He raises his fist, motioning for us to do the same. As our hands collide, that same radiant light that appeared earlier again emerges. It's just as he thought. What happened last time was no coincidence. His story may be finished, but fate has gifted him a minor role in ours. He has suspected as much since we could hear him, but he was the one who caused the flood, and he let that cloud his thoughts. That's why he decided to sit there and watch, in case he might have made it worse, but no longer. The path he walked is now ours to finish. If we need a push, he'll be right behind us. If we lose control, he'll do his best to stop us. So let us be about it, hero. One thought rings out in our mind, the words Minfilia spoke to us. Not even the most valiant of heroes can stand alone. Only together may we change the fate of two worlds. It seems like these words have come to light. Feoul appears. She came to console us, but here she finds us grinning from ear to ear. She notices how fractured our soul is. It's a complete mess. Her poor little sapling. Whatever is she going to do with us? She offers us her throne. If we claim it, we can live out the rest of our existence in Liegir. If any mortals come to threaten our life, then all of Ilmeg will rise in our defense. We give her a look that tells her she knows we will not accept such a thing, to which she responds she knew full well we wouldn't heed such a wicked suggestion. We are lost, confused, and have little time to gather our wits. Men are always so preoccupied with what lies ahead that they never stop to think about the now. So just stay still. Think not of the destination, but where we are right now, at this very moment. The crystal exarch, from shadowed hood he watched us go, his ruby eyes with warmth glow. See yourself as he saw you, and that shall be the clearest clue. The exarch saw us as a hero's hero. We were his inspiration for what he did here on the first, but there isn't any more we know about him than that. We stand in his garden. If we were to ask his friends what they know, we will find an answer. They know what he has done on the first, but his history, they know nothing. If we want to find out information about that, then Lena would be our best bet. Her parents fell to a Sin Eater attack not too long after she was born. The exarch took it upon himself to raise her. Those two are like grandfather and granddaughter. Using this information, we find Lena at a Cessnor gate. At first, she is shocked to see us walking about. Nobody had told her that we had awoken. Before we can ask our question, she has questions for us. She knows Emmett took the exarch, and when our companions told her to wait, she couldn't wait any longer. That was until she saw our condition. She then knew the trouble she was going to face was something even she couldn't fight against, but the wait has been ever so agonizing. In the exarch's final moments, he handed her a key to the innermost room of the crystal tower, named the Umbilicus. She was told that nobody was allowed to enter the tower unless a group of Sin Eaters descended on the city. He has never given her these instructions before. At the time, she accepted the key with little thought, but since he was taken, that moment hasn't left her mind. The look on his face, it was as if he knew that some terrible fate lay before him. She must know what he feared. We look down at the ground, contemplating if we should tell her everything, but in the end, we deny her inquiry. She asks for forgiveness. She shouldn't be voicing these doubts without the exarch being here personally. Now, what was the question we wanted to ask? We want to know more about the exarch. She believes the knowledge we seek lies in the Umbilicus, even though the exarch told her not to allow anyone inside. Without the knowledge we need, it may put the citizens in more danger. We meet her outside the crystal tower, and we enter together. She uses the key on the door that leads to the Umbilicus, but she will not enter with us, and we are to go alone. In the room, we see a lot of books scattered around. There doesn't seem to be anything of note, but looking towards an elegant device triggers our echo and grants us a vision. In this vision, we see the crystal exarch speaking to Urian J in the Umbilicus. This happened right after he had arrived to the first. The exarch must have unloaded a lot of information on him because he needs to sit down and collect his thoughts. The exarch's true name is Graha Tir. He is a native of the source, but it's from an age beyond the one we know, where the 8th Umbral Calamity has happened. He has traveled across the boundaries of space and time to avert this catastrophe. Urian J believes his words, but cannot grasp the enormity of this tale. Would he go through a gradual unfolding of his chapters? He begins by speaking about the great minds who survived the 8th Umbral Calamity, the greatest being Sid and Garland. To stop the war, he and his fellows pursued all solutions. One solution was a theory that was discovered in the Warrior of Light's adventures. It proposed a method by which one could enter the river of time and traverse between the worlds. Perfecting the idea consumed their lifetimes. They would leave it to future generations to put this into practice. But as you know, the world was stricken with war. Voices raised up, stating that there was no hope left, but other voices rose up in answer. Though we are beyond salvation, we may yet save those who came before. We will forge a crossroads and pave the way for a different future. By the wisdom of our forebears, we will prevent this calamity from ever passing. Some few took up Sid's research and realized those impossible ideas. After 200 years of labor, their descendants finally awakened the Crystal Tower, which awoke G'raha Tir. Their scholars had understood the phenomena of the rejoining and figured out that the first was the shard that caused the calamity. The Crystal Tower was already capable of translocating. All that was left was to augment some of its functions based on the theoretical models of Sid and his companions. By doing so, they arrived on the first, before it had joined with the source. Albeit, they missed their mark by over a century, but that time ended up being in their favor. The Sin Eaters could not be defeated without the blessing of light, and it took decades to prepare the summoning of the Warrior of Light. The fact that this plan hasn't fallen apart after all these years is miraculous. Yet, if history were to be rewritten, then the present G'raha Tir, which was shaped by the events of the future, would cease to exist. Something which he is fully aware of. To give all of one's self for the happiness of others and with no promise of reward. It's a hard thing to ask. He was right in saying that the execution of this plan was miraculous, but there was one thing that held it all together. It was us. The Warrior of Light has been their unbroken thread. Where others would stumble and fall, we would rise above. Where others would break and run, we would carry on. Our tale is one of unyielding bravery. To tell it was to feel courage. To hear it was to feel hope. In the histories of a fallen nation was our hero hailed as its greatest ally. In the time-worn pages of a nobleman's memoirs were our deeds joyously retold. For many, these stories were the flame which warmed them through the coldest nights. Therefore, when it came to recruiting people for this plan, they found themselves with no issues. We were the lodestar that brought everyone together. It was their chance to add their own verse to our saga, to send their final message back through time and space to us. The light of our legacy was their torch in the darkness. Burn bright again and live. G'raha is merely the bearer of this wish, and he has come to ensure it's delivered. Why did he decide to only share this knowledge with Urianger and not the others? Because when he heard of what Urianger did and how he saved not only the Warriors of Darkness, but set forth the plan to forestall the flood with Minfilia's help, he knew he could trust him, that he could walk the path that others couldn't if it meant saving the world. When we have defeated the last Lightwarden, G'raha will take the corrupted ether away and die in the rift. If he had told the other Scions, they would try to stop him, but in saving one, they will save none. So keep this information to himself and tell nobody. Say that during your time in the rift, you gleaned a vision which told him everything about the 8th Umbral calamity. Is this truly his wish? History remembered the Warrior of Light as he knew it would, and he will do anything to rescue the champion whose star charted his course. He will see our tale to its happy end. There has been enough tragedy. The vision ends here. We grip our fist tightly. How could we have been so foolish to think we almost gave up hope when so many people are relying on us? Ardbert tells us to be careful. If we lose control, we might succumb to the light. What do we mean to do now? I mean to have a few words with both Emmett and the Exarch. We should be on our way then. Emmett mentioned the Tempest, that is the stormy seas around Calusia. His lair must be down somewhere at the bottom of the sea. With Newfound Resolve, we leave the Crystal Tower with Ardbert. We return to Lena and ask if she knows anything about where the Tempest is. She states that we could get an Amora to take us there. The Amora Tamer can easily bring us to the Tempest, but to swim to the depths is nigh impossible. We stick around to ask more questions. There must be a way down to the depths. Unbeknownst to us, the Scions got word of our awake, gathered as fast as they could, and found us here at the Amora launch. Urianger J has shared the information we saw in our vision with the rest of the Scions. He kneels before us. He offers no excuses. He did what he did, full knowing that he was betraying the trust of his comrades and was ready to accept any judgment we might pass on him. Yet, what he senses within us is resolve. Resolve to carry out this journey to its end. If we are willing to forgive him, then please allow him to accompany us. Any wisdom or strength he possesses will be ours to command. We have already forgiven Urianger J. It's that we are a danger to everyone around us. He understands our condition, but he would wish to remain by our side till the very end. Reen doesn't think that this is a good idea. To leave the Crystarium now would be too much of a risk. Who knows how long the seal she placed will last. We should stay here and rest. In the meantime, she will find a cure. She promises us that she will. Alize bursts, telling her she shouldn't make promises that she cannot keep. They searched high and low for an answer, and everyone came back empty-handed. She is not about to stand in our way now, not after failing us in our hour of need. The least they can do is accompany us, which is what the rest of them will do. If we lead, they shall follow. If there is any hope left to be found, it is at our side. Civilians of the Crystarium catch us before we leave, asking if there is anything they can do to help. They do not know the full story, but they know we are in for a fight. Whilst the Exarch's away, it falls to them to see the Warrior of Darkness is given a proper send-off. Lena had told them everything. To be honest, the people here had already guessed that we were the Warrior of Darkness. Every place we went to, the light ended up vanishing. We also hail from the same place as the Exarch, and he said he had been waiting for someone. The moment they saw us, they knew we were the one he was waiting for. The people are raring for a fight, or to at least help. There must be some way to revert the world back to what it once was. They do not understand where we come from, or why we've done so much to protect them, but they are forever in our debt. So if there's anything we need to aid in our journey, we only need to say it. So what will we have from them? We would have invited them to join us, but there are too many of them. Instead, we tell them to leave it to us. We will see the Exarch brought home safe and sound. The crowd cheers in response. Now it is time for action. We must first discern how to reach the bottom of the Tempest. Urianger J believes that he has a solution to this problem. We need to reach the ocean floor whilst also having the ability to breathe and fight underwater. Therefore, he would like to enlist the help of an ancient Fey being. Just like the primal we fought with the help of Sid, this entity is the same, except it is the real one. It is a whale which hides as a piece of land, but it can be spoken to. Urianger J tries to coerce the mighty being into aiding our cause, but he doesn't want to until the sun has set. Then we remember that we have the perfect being to help win him over to our cause. We call on Feo Ul, who is Titania, king of all Fey folk. With her authority, her words will weigh more on Bismarck compared to our own, which they do. If she wishes it done, then Bismarck will do it. We must scrub his teeth afterwards, however, as it is only good manners. We best hold on tight. This is going to be a bumpy ride. Bismarck swims towards the west, and once it has gained enough speed, it activates its control over the wind and starts soaring into the air. Eventually, we make it to Calusia, and aim for the center of the Tempest.
The breath of Bismarck. See how it swells to form a dome beneath the waves? The waters recede, the tempest's floor is laid bare. In defiance of the blinding sky, this place holds fast to its gloom. The last refuge of he who denies the light with every fiber of his being. You stand at the precipice, hero. Journey unto the heart of darkness. Finish it.
If If one can believe it, we are truly on the seabed of the Tempest and can breathe down here as if it were air. Bismarck has the capabilities that are similar to that of the Kojin. If you remember, the homes that lay under the Ruby Sea use the same sort of magic to allow the citizens to breathe. Bismarck, however, is a much more powerful being, and this meant that he could cover a wider area. We decide to head down the slope and keep an eye out for rock formations that might look like a house or a civilization. Eventually, we come across an Ondo youth, or as we know them, Sahagin. He gasps at the sight of us and scurries away to his village. We decide to follow him and see where it leads us. Inside, we find the chieftain of the Ondo and apologize for disturbing them. We did not know that they lived down here. The chieftain says something quite peculiar. Are we emissaries of the Ancient Ones? The mysteries have stirred. They have seen the illuminated land shining through the gloom of the abyss. If we are emissaries, then he bids us welcome. Otherwise, we are to leave. He refuses to elaborate on what that means, so we take a minor recess to see if we can understand his words. The plan now is to assist with this settlement. Our dramatic arrival has thrown them into confusion. If we go around aiding them with whatever they need, they may be more trusting to speak with us about this illuminated land. From one Ondo, we learn about the village history. They used to settle in the waters to the south, but after the flood swallowed up that land, they found this place here. There are buildings that seem to withstand the test of time and the raging currents of the Tempest. Their impenetrable defense has kept them safe this whole time, which is where they learned they were meant to be caretakers of the Ancients. They have long awaited for the Ancients' arrival, and as long as we show protection and prosperity, we will find warm welcome here. Y'shtola is fascinated with this information and asks us to join her in testing some theories. She wants us to inspect the nearby buildings for any distinct characteristics, and then she wants us to use a knife and gather some flakes from one of the nearby walls. When investigating the buildings, the main characteristics we note is that they are tall and slender. They have elaborate features unlike anything we have seen on Eorzea. When attempting to take a few flakes off with a knife provided, even with a large amount of pressure, not even a single scratch appears on the stone, let alone a flake. We return to Y'shtola with what we have found. She has been feeling like something was different about these structures. Because she sees by seeing the ether in all beings, her eyes are looking at creations that she does not have a name for they are a blend of several materials to create something of unparalleled durability. Even the Ronkan Empire in its prime didn't have buildings anywhere near this level of perfection. But if the Ronkans did not make it, who did? The Ancients the Ondo speak of. The other question is, why did Emmett retreat here? Why not anywhere else? Is this place another part of an Ascian scheme, or is it somewhere dear to him? It is her theory that the Ascians created this place a long time ago when the star was whole and unsundered. It has eradicated such traces of their existence on the source after 7 umbral calamities, but here on the first, they have remained untouched for a millennia. She hands us a drawing of the murals on the wall at the end of the Kitana Ravel. When inspecting the buildings in the drawing, doesn't it look quite similar to the buildings here? If we keep looking, we're bound to find more towers that match the picture more directly. After a bit of searching, we find a structure that looks very similar to the picture. Y'shtola arrives not too long after. There is no telling for what this structure was for or how deep it goes. After all this time, it lays here covered in dust and debris. Yet it proves that they all once lived here in peace, and now only a handful of Ascians remember anything. But we must not forget our path. If the chieftain believes that our arrival here has something to do with the Ancients, then we will have to assume the illuminated glow they mentioned is going to be related to the structures seen here. And who else is going to turn the lights on in that city, if not Emmett himself? This almost but confirms that he is here. Our only path forward is going to be earning the Ondo's trust. We hope that the deeds we are doing are going to be enough for them. They sent us to find a land dweller who was tasked with creating their lantern, which they need for their ritual. The land dweller is actually quite familiar. They even share the same name as the one we know, Grenold. But he cannot find the inspiration to create it. Yet, we show him a crystal worthy of inspiration. It is one of Ardbert's dear departed allies' Crystal of Light, which we obtained during the role quest in Shadowbringer. We haven't covered those just yet, but we will soon. Showing him the Crystal of Light fills him with many emotions. It shines with striking beauty. It shines with heartache and laughter. It shows the brevity of life, like turmoil and history made manifest. He can see the brilliance of the crystal's legacy. You'd never capture such a gleam even in 100 years. This gives him the push to create the lantern, and with it in hand, we can bring it to the Ondo so they can finally start their ritual. The chieftain believes that we are the emissaries of the ancients and asks that we accompany them to the ritual. We head back to the walls of the Forgotten, where we were with Y'shtola, and we see the Ondo gathering underneath it. They place the lantern directly underneath the structure and call upon their gods. Ardbert is watching along with us. He questions where we had gotten that Crystal of the Light. Wasn't it his friends? It was. We tell him everything that unfolded during our quest to slay a cardinal virtue. He was right then. It's funny how he should learn all these things now that they are gone. He'd never expected death to teach him so much about them, about Seto, about us, about the hope that hides at the heart of this world. He hopes that one day he may see his friends again. He doubts he'll ever stop talking. He's grateful that he at least got to bend our ear, and for that, he'll stick around until the very end. The rest of the Scions finally arrive at the ritual, albeit a little late. Y'shtola had told the rest of them about her theories, that these structures date back to the age of the Ascians. Even though Emmett spoke the truth so plainly, we never actually believed it was true. Until now. There is no way to deny the evidence placed right before us. This place was once a great city, a home they would see restored, no matter how many years it takes. It is a hollow dream, as they could never bring back the ones they lost. But would we have done any differently if we were put in their position? Reen changes the subject to ask how we're feeling. We look at our hand and we still only see ourselves as a Sin Eater, but our form is still holding on for now. The Ondo comes over. They have finished their ritual and believe that we are the emissaries they have been looking for. In that case, they can reveal more about that illuminated land. To the west lies a trench, and some days ago, a light appeared in that endless dark, so they sent people to investigate said light, but what they found was an entire city. Buildings that were the same as their own abodes. They believed that the ancients had risen once more, so they sealed off the door and retreated home. None were to enter until they had been given a sign. He is now convinced that we are that sign. His people will show us the way. The Ondo guide gives us directions. Enter the cavern beyond and follow the wall down and down and down. Once at the bottom, find a passage to the northwest, then continue west and west and west. Just before journey's end, you will find the Caliban Gap. The barrier placed there will recede if we raise our hand towards it. The way there is not simple, so keep our allies within shouting distance. The directions given don't exactly match the path we see in reality, but we reach the sealed door. Raising our hand removes the barrier, and we enter the cave. We keep heading down a slope until we come face to face with a city. Emmett must have found the ruins of the ancient city and placed an enchantment over them, bringing the city to life once more. His mastery of etherology is staggering. we have most definitely underestimated the strength of an old world Ascian. While the city is intimidating, we need to look somewhere. We find a nearby door, which is too big for any of us to open. A voice rings out from it, stating our name has been recognized in their system, and it welcomes us to Amarot. If we remember, Emmett invited us to visit him if we wanted to descend into madness away from prying eyes. Seeing as there is no other way down to the ground floor, we take the lift. It is here on the ground floor we finally see some signs of life. They speak in a strange language that we have never heard, yet the words are translated the moment it enters our mind. Because we are tiny when compared to these giants, they keep mistaking us for kids, but that doesn't stop us from trying to gather as much information as possible. From what we can gather, we are in the Polylerite district, the center of Amarot, where the Convocation is managing the star. The citizens here aren't actually alive, they are just phantoms of a long-begotten era. Before the Great Sundering and the final days, a catastrophic phenomenon which is causing them to lose control of their creation magics. Any emotion they feel is being siphoned and giving birth to nightmarish beasts. It is as if the star itself is ill. The Convocation works tirelessly to solve this problem and bring peace to all. These creation magics they use are very similar to the concepts of the primals, using ether to give form to beings that one creates in their minds. Yet it seems like these ancients had an abundance of ether, that to cast a spell as strong as that one didn't faze them. When we do it, we resort to using ether crystals and the ether of the land itself. All of this information is interesting to think about, but none of it tells us about Emmett. Thancred had heard that we could find him at the Capitol building, but they wouldn't let him in without a writ of permission. The administration building wouldn't give him one either, as their name isn't on the list. But considering our name was on the lift, maybe our name is on the list and we can get one of these writs ourselves. When going to the brewer of the administrator, our name is on the list. Emmett himself entered it. We are given our application documents and are told to bring them before the clerk in the brewer of the secretariat. They accept our application, but we will have to wait until our name is called. We sit on a nearby bench and wait. One of the ancients sits next to us. He says to us he is named Hythlodius. He is aware that we are from a time beyond his. He knows he is only a shade, and the city he walks in is only a recreation of a specific time in Amarot. The others seem unaware of their existence, but Emmett must have been distracted when creating him. All it would have taken was a single stray thought. You see, once upon a time, they were close friends. Even though he is aware of his existence, he will continue to play his part. If he were to act unnatural, it would cause this little bubble of time to burst. That is why he is no cause for alarm. He merely wishes to keep us company whilst we wait. If we have come this far, then we must know about the catastrophe that awaits them. The final days. It started out as a few isolated incidents and eventually swelled into a world-ending threat. The Convocation endeavored to restore the fundamental laws of order and halt the destruction of the star. But such an endeavor would not come without sacrifice. Half of their order gave themselves up to manifest Zodiac. With his will, they halted the March of Oblivion. Yet, the star had suffered so many species were gone. The land was blighted, the water poisoned, and even the wind ceased to blow. So again, another half of the remaining order gave themselves to cleanse the world and ensure that life may grow and flourish. And thus, the cycle of life had begun anew. The Convocation's idea was to nurture the land and allow life to flourish once more. Then, when enough vitality had been nurtured, they would sacrifice the new life energies to Zodiac in return for their old brethren. Then they could return to their role as stewards. There were those that opposed this idea. They grew tired of the constant sacrificing to Zodiac and demanded that the new world should belong to the newborn. They sacrificed their number to create Hydaelyn, the complete opposite of Zodiac. For the first time in history, their people stood divided. And as for the rest of the story, we know how it ended. Emmett has always been a champion of Zodiac. Even if his original plan has been set back by a millennia, he will do whatever it takes to see it through. Even though he seems quite carefree, he isn't one to carry around his burdens lightly. Hyphlodius believes that they get heavier and heavier with each passing century. Our name is finally called by the clerk. We step off of the bench and walk towards them, but he stops us, saying something very curious, that we walk with another at our side. He doesn't see a definite form, but just the faintest suggestions of a second soul. He assumes that we are the only one who can see and hear this companion. If this is true, then it is hardly a coincidence. During their time, the two of us would have been one. No matter how thin the soul is spread, the color of our soul is unmistakable. He laughs to himself. This is the kind of fate he would have expected for one such as he. Surely Emmett has recognized the hint of him in us. The clerk calls our name again with a hint of urgency. He says goodbye to us, and when we turn to face him, he is gone. We head to the desk and receive our writ. We return to our companions and show them it. With this, we can now enter the capital. They ask if we have heard any information worthy of sharing during our efforts to obtain the writ, to which we share the dialogue we just had with Hyphlodius. We had believed that we knew what the Ascians wanted to achieve, but it seems like it won't just end with the rejoinings. They will sacrifice all life left to resurrect their brethren. And what of Emmett's plans? Who knows what he is going to do with the Exarch's power? He will thwart our plans in the future and in the past. We need to find Emmett and put a stop to this endless madness. Even if it means that the light will break through during our battle, we have to take it. With the writ in hand, they give us permission to enter the capital. Emmett appears through a black rift, condemning us for not listening to his instructions. He doesn't want this half-broken thing. He wants a monster which will destroy the world. And he didn't want us to bring our friends along either. Are we so lost without them? It's a little ironic to say that we are lost without our friends when he recreated an entire city and filled it with fake souls of dead ancients. He drops the facade. Yes, it's true. To resurrect those very same souls, he will sacrifice all remaining life to Zodiac. But what exactly have we come here to do? To rescue the Exarch. We cannot have him. His knowledge of traversing the rift will be useful in committing more umbral calamities. Even after everything we've seen, still we refuse to see reason. Do we think it's unfair that our incomplete lives will be sacrificed to the ancients? He has lived 1,000 of our lives. He has broken bread with us, fought with us, grown ill, grown old, and had children, and even welcomed death's sweet embrace. For a millennia, he has measured our worth, and every time he has found us wanting. We are too weak and too feeble-minded to be stewards of this star. Has our recent battles with Vorthri taught us nothing? Have we not learned that our incomplete nature only causes more misery? How long do we mean to continue this ridiculousness? Let's imagine that the laws of reality are again undone. Would half of our number sacrifice themselves to save the rest? Of course they wouldn't. We cannot be entrusted with their legacy. He will bring back his brethren, his friends, and his loved ones. The world belongs to them, and them alone. We all sit there in silence, unable to come up with a response. But then Alphino finds the words. He calls out to him. We understand what he is saying, but it truly makes no difference. The dead he holds on to are in the past, and the ones we care about are here now in the present. We will one day be ashes and dust, but not today. Our time is not yet now. Because we share his convictions, we will not abandon our chosen course. This has angered him. We think our tattered souls are worth just as much as the ancients of the past. Then come, earn your place, prove ourselves worthy to inherit this star. The door behind him opens and reveals endless hellfire. Inside this door is a recreation of the final days, a fitting backdrop for our final judgment. He will await us within. To the depths of the Tempest, to the ocean floor itself, we have come to rescue the Crystal Exarch from the phantom city of Amarot. But barring our way is the architect of this ethereal construct, Emic Selk, the Ascian who would lead the first unto destruction. The light within us strains at its corporeal confines, threatening to break free at any moment. Time does not favor the warrior of darkness. We must brave the final days of Amarot and confront Emic Selk in the very midst of this recreated calamity. He welcomes us to the final days of Amarot. The fabric of their star frayed, and their unchecked creation magic gave birth to malformed beasts. They left naught but blood and ash in their wake. Just as prayer gives rise to primors, their dread made manifest their deepest fears. And thus did the first doom befall them. The first beast was striking in its unsightliness. It scoured all life away and called down cataclysmic deluge. With its strength, it caused the surrounding buildings to collapse. But we are victorious in slaying the first beast. But even its defeat did not halt the march of oblivion. However, it would not prove the last. The land buckled and the cities burned. The waters ran red with blood. Soon the sun bent low, scorching the earth and boiling the seas. And thus did the second doom break them. As the terminus bellwether blows, it gave birth to terrors. A terror which in turn gives birth to new beasts. As its gaze turns skyward, fiery rain falls from the heavens. Once fear has taken root, it cannot be expunged. As if feeding upon the horror, the beast bloats, and then shivers, and then ruptures. It was defeated, but this was far from the worst of it. Come, he will show us. It is just a little further ahead. If we keep pushing, we will see the end of a world. They knew the star was fading, and they knew they had to weave its laws anew. But between them and their goal loomed a final misbegotten fiend. As Amarot stood upon the precipice of oblivion, Therion was one of many harbingers who would see the world ravaged by flames. Knowing the Amarotines themselves gave birth to these unspeakable horrors, perhaps made them all the more terrible as they ushered in the final days. From the depths of despair, the last harbinger rose. Its voice was fulgent destruction. No one could stand in its path. And as it edged inexorably closer, they knew that without decisive sacrifice, the star would surely perish. And normally, this is where they would sacrifice half of their order to summon Zodiac. However, we slay Therion. It is unknown if this is because the real version of him was multitude stronger than the recreation of him. I'd like to assume it's that. Emmett seems reasonably impressed that we prevailed, but to him, it isn't enough. He knocks all of us back with dark energies. Our performance was underwhelming, and he doesn't consider us worthy. We may tower above the rest of our kind, but if he were to bring out his full strength, then we wouldn't stand a chance. The gap between us shows the disparity between the world as it was and the world as it is today. Alize dashes forward, but her blade cannot find her mark. Instead, Emmett blocks it with a barrier. Our worlds may not live up to his lofty standards, but they are our worlds, our homes, and we will not stand by and let him destroy them. She lets out a tirade of attacks, but none of them even faze Emmett. He raises a single hand and sends her flying off of her feet with a gust of wind. Seeing his sister hurt, Alphino rushes over to check on her condition. Emmett again mocks us. We are a mistake. For those who have known perfection, the lives we lead are pale imitations, mockeries of the true world. He can belittle us all he likes, but mankind will rise again and again to prove his insults wrong. We define our own worth, not the circumstances of our creation. Emmett shuts Alphino up by dropping shadowy daggers from the sky. They then explode. As the dust cloud disappears, it reveals that Alphino did what he could to shield his sister from most of the damage, but they are both unconscious and their condition is unknown. Seeing them injured like this gives us the strength to stand on our feet. Again he mocks us. Who are we? Nobody. Nothing. The first thing he will do once he has reclaimed his heritage is wipe our stain from history's weave. His world has no need for heroes. He sends a shadowy dagger towards us, but Urianger blocks it with a barrier. Y'shtola casts a flare down on Emmett. Everything we hold dear is fated to fade away, but we walk this path in life and mark the road for those who follow. To strive for the best of all futures, is this not also his purpose? He is unfazed by the flare. In a fit of rage, he sends 2 shadowy daggers at both of them, each finding their mark and knocking both of them unconscious. They shouldn't speak as if they know his future. He looks at us and sighs. Why do we waste our final moments in defiance? Weary wanderer, we have no fight left to fight. We ignore his words and keep pressing on. But the light surges once more, and this time, it seems to be the last. The light will not be denied. Emmett tells us to surrender to our fate and let this transformation take us. Rise up and devour the vermin that infest the land that is rightfully theirs. Thancred jumps out of nowhere and causes Emmett to raise a barrier to stop him. As he is distracted, he calls Tareen and tells her to do it now. She jumps to her feet and begins running over to us, hoping that she can seal the light within once more. Emmett realizes what is happening. He sends Thancred flying and launches a shadow dagger at Reen. The last words we hear from her is that we have to fight it. We have to hold on. With this, every scion has collapsed and is unconscious. We cannot ignore the light within. It surges until we begin to cough it from our mouth. We fall on the floor, losing all of our strength. In our final moments, we see Ardbert.
If you had the strength to take another step, could you do it? Could you save our worlds?
What, all by myself?
Take it. We fight as one. This world is not yours to end. This is our future. Our story. No, it can't be.
That trick of the light. You are a broken husk, nothing more. How can you hope to stand against me alone?
We stand together!
I'm surprised you can stand at all.
I could not well leave matters half-finished. Let expanse contract, eon become instant. Champions from beyond the rift, Heed my call!
Damn you! Damn you all!
I challenge you, Emmett Selk.
Very well. Let us proceed to your final judgment. The victor shall write the tale, and the vanquished become its villain. But come, let us cast aside titles and pretense, and reveal our true faces to one another. I am Hades, he who shall awaken our brethren from their dark slumber.
Show me your vaunted strength, and I shall expose the lie of your fragmented existence.
By Emmett's own words, we are no one, nothing. Our life a ghastly mockery of past perfection, utterly devoid of meaning. Yet, despite his endless refutations of our worth, mankind has dreamed and struggled and survived. Even now, we fight to preserve our future and spare two worlds from unimaginable destruction. The moment has come to make our stand, to call upon every last reserve of strength, fight for those who shared our journey and for those we met along the way. Fight for those who awaited our coming across the boundaries of time and space. From distant stars yet dimmed, we are joined by 7 summoned companions, for only together can we hope to prevail against the staggering might of this ancient Ascian, the immortal and implacable Hades. The strength of an unsundered Ascian is nothing to scoff at. It can't even be compared to the previous battles we have fought. But with the help of Ardbert and the heroes summoned from beyond the rift, somehow we are surviving the battle. He tries to use his powers to consume our light, but it isn't enough. Eventually, he believes that his flesh is rendering him unable to win. He shatters his mortal visage and takes his true form. By bearing every hope, every dream, every prayer from his fallen brethren, he will expunge us from this world and bring salvation to his friends. Somehow, this has caused his strength to increase even further, but it is still not enough. He will use his final move. He draws on the power of his brethren, and with their combined might, he intends to drown us in the darkest abyss. Our light grows faint. But we draw upon the strength of the light within, allowing us to break free from the grasp of the dark. With this final burst of energy, we are able to defeat him. Or at least, So we thought.
Should I surrender this fight, what will become of it all? What will become of our dreams?
Enough, damn you!
Such infernal strength!
Now! Strike with all thy might!
Remember us. Remember that we once lived.
Emmett's physical form disperses into ether. He is no more. The Scions question how we are faring. The last they knew, we were keeled over and about to turn into a sin eater. From what Y'shtola can see, our ether has returned to normal. Her assumption is from that battle, we have spent all the Lightwarden's light against the Ascian's darkness. Yet Reen says it isn't so simple. Our soul itself split apart because of the Lightwarden's radiant light. Yet it is restored. She didn't reach us in time during that battle, so what exactly happened? We look behind us to Ardbert's axe that we forged out of light. We had help from a hero of this world, but we'll tell them the rest of the story later. The Exarch shuffles himself over to the rest of us, wearing a face of remorse. He doesn't even know where to begin. He wants to issue us all an apology for his duplicity, especially to us. In response, all we can say is, "'Tis good to see you awake, Graha Tia."
Well, 'tis good to be awake. And thus did salvation come to the first. The lamps of Amarot will fade along with Emet-Selk's enchantments, and the depths shall be as once they were. Mount Gulg will one day fall, and the Talos below yield to wind and rain. This tale, too, will fade with time, passing into legend as the world heals and moves on. Nevertheless, as ether obeys the cycle, as death and decay gives way to new life, so too do the memories we share inspire others to rise to greatness. For we who walk before may lead those who walk after. Your road goes ever on, as does your story, as does your legacy. Such is the hero's lot, to touch the lives of countless others.
Excuse me? You're the Warrior of Darkness, aren't you? Where are you from, really? And how did you get to be so strong?
By our deeds, we have stayed the blinding light, and the Sneeters have retreated. The 8th Umbral Calamity is no longer a threat to us. Yet, G'raha is still alive and well. He assumed that once we stopped the 8th Umbral Calamity, he would cease to exist, as he came from a time beyond the Calamity. But here he stands. Maybe his impact here on the First has etched him too deep into this timeline and made him too important to erase. We will never truly know for sure, but this means that the rest of the Scions are stuck here on the First. His death was meant to release the summoning he had on all of us. The Scions are all fine with it. They would rather he lived than be home. It would have been too quick if they had all disappeared together without getting to say their goodbyes to the friends they made whilst here. Also, Reen would have been left all alone if that happened. But they can't leave themselves here with no message to the Source. As we are the only one who can travel between the rift, they send us to keep Tataru and the other Scions up to date on what has happened on the First. G'raha prepares to attune the Crystal Tower.
When I was a boy, many long years ago, I yearned to stand tall as the heroes of Eld. But like a fool seeking to pluck the stars from the heavens, my every attempt to reprise their deeds fell short. And then one day, an all but forgotten dream from my youth stood before me in the flesh. A hero who looked at the horizon and beyond and saw I knew not what. All I knew was that I would give anything to stand at that hero's side. Would that it was so easy. The glory of the heavens was ever beyond the grasp of those who never thought to reach for it. But if I have gained anything from all of this, it is the courage to stretch out my hand. Do you hear me, Grahatia? This is no time for sleeping.
Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace on the Source, Estinian and Gaius are using the distraction at the Royal Palace to enter it directly. They are racing through the halls, which are littered with the bodies of fallen Imperial soldiers. A single strike slew every guard. Behind the throne room door, Gaius hears the Emperor let out an audible scream and races through the doors, foregoing any plan he had set before entering the palace. He enters to see that horror unfolding in front of his very eyes. The body Xenos was possessing is laying on the floor motionless, and Xenos' body has stabbed his father through the abdomen. It is unclear who is currently controlling the body, but why would Xenos want to kill his own father? So it must be Elidibus. Yet Xenos confirms it isn't. Elidibus fled his body when his only option was to cross blades with Xenos, which he is quite disappointed about. He has always wanted to have a chance to fight against himself, but he cannot deny his satisfaction. Finally, body and soul are reunited once more. Gaius doesn't believe his words and assumes it's Elidibus trying to play tricks on him. But Varys speaks up, confirming that it is Xenos. His greed has become too much. Clearly, he seeks the throne, but someone like him cannot control such a prize. The burden of the throne is beyond him. Xenos comes not to claim that burden, nor to rule over the Empire's lands. He has come to remove him, because he threatens to ruin his sport. He will not have his prey stolen by petty wars and the Black Rose. Any and all who interfere with his hunt will not do so twice. He strikes Varys with his broken blade, killing him instantly. He overheard the truths of this world from Elidibus. He knows everything about Hydaelyn and Zodiac. We will feast on their strength, and at the end, we shall renew our contest once more. Upon seeing the Emperor slain, Gaius cannot contain his anger. He rushes him with his blade. Elidibus is on the moon, alone. Emmett is gone. La Habrea is gone. He is the last of the Unsundered. It is now up to him to reevaluate our potential. He revealed all secrets of this world to Xenos just to see how events would unfold, but not even he could predict what happened. He is the emissary, and his power was absolute in being able to predict the future, yet he can no longer. Thanks to Hydaelyn's deeds, we tighten our grip on their world. We live our lives unaware of those who were sacrificed to achieve it. We celebrate imperfect lives, uncaring and unknowing of our weakness. But she is not rid of him. We have been a thorn in his side for so long, but he may have a way of casting us into the abyss. He will keep us busy in the first, and their victory shall be his. If we take on the title of Warriors of Darkness, then we shall follow the same fate of those who did previously, and meet our end at the hands of the Warriors of Light. Thancred and Reen are in the Northern Empty. Reen is determined to find what lies at the center of this empty wasteland. We may have saved the world, but we haven't reclaimed it. She believes that whatever lies in the center may be the key to reclaiming the first once more. Though blazing skies give way to gentle night, what hand can end the war of dark and light?